Your child, healthy, confident, and standing up for what's right. It's the ultimate dream for every parent, and the truth is, more and more, that dream is becoming a reality as kids across the country lead the charge in substance use prevention and sober movements. These young leaders aren't waiting for adults to set the tone. They're creating communities where being substance-free isn't just the safe choice, it's the strong and inspiring choice. They're proving that prevention is about more than saying no. It's about saying yes. Yes to leadership, yes to healthy friendships, and yes to a culture where positive peer pressure pushes kids forward. Hi, I'm Jodie Sweetin, and this is Awkward Conversations, where we give parents real tools to help raise happy, substance-free kids. Each week, we break down the tough topics families face and share practical advice you can use right away. On today's episode, we'll meet some of these incredible young leaders and the adult champions who are supporting them, giving them the tools they need and empowering them to lead the way in building a stronger, healthier future for all kids. So settle in and let's find out how you can inspire your kids to step up and become a true leader. Even the eye-rolliest, TikTok dancing, can't clean their room but knows every meme kid. It's season 5 of Awkward Conversations. Let's get into it. And joining us today is Bill Bryan, the National Director of the Elks Drug Awareness Program. And the Elks not only run the largest volunteer drug awareness program in the country, they also, along with the DEA, sponsor this show, making conversations like this possible. Welcome.
Thank you.
So nice to see you again.
Nice to see you ladies.
And Amy McCarthy, Senior Clinical Social Worker at Boston Children's Hospital in the Division of Addiction Medicine.
Thanks for having me back. I'm
Absolutely.
looking forward to this conversation.
Absolutely. It's a really important one.
We're also joined by Colonel Bill Davis, U.S. Marine Corps retired, CEO of the Young Marines. The Young Marines program is built on leadership, teamwork, and a drug-free lifestyle, empowering kids to be role models in their schools and communities.
Hey, Jodie, Amy, great to be here. Thanks so much.
And we're excited to welcome back Sean Fearns, Chief of Community Outreach and Prevention Support at the DEA. Sean represents the DEA, who, together with the Elks, sponsor this program and make it possible to share prevention resources and leadership stories with families everywhere.
Hi, Jodie. Hi, Amy.
And of course, none of this would mean nearly as much without the young people themselves. Today, we'll hear directly from two amazing young people who are out there proving that kids can be powerful leaders, that are proving that the best way to lead is by example. Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show. Ashkaya and Jackson, would you like to say hi?
Hello, I'm Young Marine Sergeant Major Akshaya Krishna, and I'm from Sacramento, California.
Hello, I'm Young Marine Sergeant Major Jackson Waters, and I'm from Denver, Colorado.
What a great group we've got here. I mean, we have a lot of really great things to talk about. But I would like to start with Bill. Can you tell us about the Elks Drug Awareness Program and what makes it unique and why it is so special?
Well, thanks, Joey, for that question. I've been watching a lot of congressional hearings lately. It seems that they always answer it by, thank you so much for that question, when they really didn't want to answer it. But I'm truly glad that you answered that question because as you mentioned in the introduction, we are the largest all-volunteer drug awareness program in the country. We were founded in 1983, and our mission is to educate youth and families about the dangers of drug and alcohol use. We operate year-round, which is, we're not just a one-and-done event. We operate 24/7, 7 days a week. We're always available. We're always ready to help in any way we can. And we reach millions of kids through our school presentations, community events, and we run contests for kids. We have 2 dynamic speakers who travel throughout the country getting the anti-drug message to kids. Last year, we reached over 50,000 kids, both in person and through virtual sessions with them. We also have 2 websites that we run. One is called Elks Kids Zone, and the other is Elks Teen Zone. And both those websites have articles and content that is constantly changing, so that it's really up to date. And our partnership with organizations like the DEA and the Young Marines expand our ability to reach out and bring diverse perspectives to the prevention education of children. The biggest shift, I think, is our change in philosophy. When we started in 1983, basically we had the just say no attitude, and I think maybe we tried to scare kids into not using illegal substances. But today we equip them with the tools to make really good choices. We've gone from just say no to just say no, KNOW. We give kids the knowledge to choose wisely and to choose safely.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things we talk about is, saying it's not just about saying no to substances. It's about saying yes to other things that really build you up outside of, peer influence and peer pressure.
Bill, can you remind us what Red Ribbon Week is and how people can get involved?
Well, Red Ribbon really was started way back when by a bunch of kids and childhood friends of Agent Enrique Camarena, who, as most people now know, was kidnapped, brutally tortured, and eventually murdered. And the Red Ribbon was kind of begun to keep his memory alive. And so what started as a small grassroots operation has really turned into a nationwide event. And by letting youth know that, they're empowered to speak with one another, to talk with one another, and they actually, in many instances, take the Red Ribbon Pledge, which just simply pledges that they will remain substance-free, that they will make wise and informed choices, and that they, too, will try to make a difference in their community. We here at the Elks really support any effort in our communities to recognize Red Ribbon Week, or as the whole month of October, basically, and that we supply at no cost to communities, to schools, red ribbons with the message that one person can make a difference.
And Sean, we would love to get some thoughts from you, obviously working for the DEA, the focus of Red Ribbon Week, but really the focus on kind of bridging public health and public safety. How has that evolved over the years? How does that come into play in Red Ribbon Week?
Thanks, Jodie, so much. I want to tee off of what Bill had said about the start of Red Ribbon. And we're talking about youth on this particular episode. It should not be lost on every parent, every caregiver who's listening to this episode, that Red Ribbon, the longest running drug awareness campaign in the United States, was started by young people in Calexico, California, at the high school where DEA Special Agent Camarena went to high school. That, to me, is an incredibly powerful statement about the value of youth being involved in drug education. DEA is proud to support Red Ribbon all these decades later. It happens every October. It's always the last week of October, from October 23rd through the 31st. But what has evolved is that there are public education pieces to Red Ribbon, but it's also about making sure that folks understand the health value of growing up healthy and drug-free. There's public safety. Law enforcement is a big part of spreading the Red Ribbon message. But what's really great about getting young people involved, kids involved, is, hey, I'm deciding now when I'm in elementary school or middle school or high school that I'm going to make a conscious decision to grow up healthy and drug-free. And the public health message that sends, that's incredibly powerful.
Hear, hear.
Absolutely. And the One Pill Can Kill campaign was something that the DEA has really been focused on with the opioid crisis taking over. Could you speak a little bit about that campaign and the youth-led efforts there that are also helping to spread?
Absolutely. First and foremost, One Pill Can Kill is all about raising awareness of the challenges, the threats from fake pills. They look like a legitimate pharmaceutical medication that you as a parent or caregiver might get from your local pharmacy. The problem is they are fake. They are being made outside of the legitimate supply of medication in the United States. And some of these fake pills contain really deadly drugs like fentanyl, carfentanil, DEA is now seizing fake pills that contain methamphetamine. So, we needed to make sure that folks were aware that you should not take a medication that wasn't prescribed for you by your doctor. And over the last couple of years, that campaign has spread all over the United States. It is not DEA's campaign. We encourage families, schools, elected leaders, and community organizations to help us spread the word. And let me give you 3 examples of how youth are involved, and they're tremendous. It's 3 examples of thousands, of course. But the first one I want to single out is in Merced County, California. Back in 2023, they began an effort to have students creating video messages to educate their peers about the dangers of taking a pill that they don't know is real or not. So that was one from California. Then in 2024, we're going to go to the college age range, a college university. Mississippi State got involved in students on campus, getting involved in helping to spread the word about One Pill Can Kill. And then another recent example here in 2025, up in Alaska, there is a contest for high school students to not just do a single public service announcement, but to actually launch an entire social media campaign around One Pill Can Kill, and there are cash prizes available for the high school students. It is always amazing to see just how talented kids are today. It's far more talented than perhaps some adults with video cameras, just using their mobile phones to create messaging to their friends, to their colleagues in school, and to a parent or caregiver that's listening to this podcast or watching this podcast. My message to you would be, encourage young people in your life to get involved in helping to spread the word about One Pill Can Kill to their peers.
This is something that anyone who's listening can start in their communities, just as Red Ribbon Week started, just as all these other One Pill Can Kill campaigns did. And it's something that all of us, I would argue, have a responsibility to do in terms of educating, the community and the young people in our lives.
Yeah. And we've also done some previous episodes in other seasons about the One Pill Can Kill campaign, and really talking about that and talking with families who have lost loved ones in the opioid crisis. And it's just it's a really important campaign to, be talking about with young people right now.
Very powerful. Like Bill said at the beginning of the episode, this is so much about just say no, like KNOW. And these campaigns empower, I think, families and communities with this information, this knowledge. And like we've talked about, for individual young people and adults to make personal decisions that safeguard them. I think what is so wonderful is that we're learning more about how these are successful campaigns too. And by talking about these things and getting the information out there, it is saving lives, which is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. I one of the facts that we were talking about was that a high school implemented it, and they had no further overdose deaths in 2 years. And it was, something that had really affected their school. So when young people talk to other young people, it is just super important. And speaking of that, we would love to dive into the Young Marines program. Colonel Davis, this has been a place where youth really develop leadership and discipline. But tell us a little bit more about what the Young Marines are, what you do, and how substance-free living sort of plays into that.
Young Marines is a 501c3 youth development program. We're nationwide. Last year in over 200 locations around the country, about 5,000 kids, and led by 1,700 motivated adult volunteers and my little bitty staff here in DC. We were founded in 1959 as a leadership development program, and then incorporated in 1965. It's our 60th birthday, hoorah.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Yay, yeah. So interestingly, so we were about leadership and citizenship. And during the Clinton administration, when they started with the war on drugs, in 1993, we were tapped into this whole drug demand reduction, or as Sean's folks would call prevention programs. And that's where we really got into that aspect of the program. But, we're dealing with boys and girls from ages 8 to high school. And it's really about that youth development. As Bill Bryan said, no KNOW and the ODO. That's kind of where we're at. We build through our program, age appropriate, skill appropriate development of youth over that long period of time, to where they build up the personal resilience. They build up their own education, so that they not only they have the moral, the physical and the education to say no to drugs, but also they don't need them because they're living that healthy drug-free lifestyle. And so that's the power of the program. You talk about positive peer reinforcement, but also social learning theory. The two young Marines that are with me today, they've been in this program for a long time. They're role models for little kids that look up to them and want to emulate what they do and to live that lifestyle that they have. And so that really is so on topic for today's discussion about how youth really can lead the way and engage in these others. And jumping on to Red Ribbon Week, that's something that we're all in on as well. The young Marines will be able to tell you about events we do around the country, working closely with the DEA. One Pill Can Kill, Operation Prevention, programs they have provided, we have implemented, operationalized all around the country, and so much better off for it. I also appreciate the awards. And the Elks program, what a great partner. The largest humanitarian organization in the United States focused on youth, and us, a youth program that's working, hand in hand. Between the three of us, just making amazing things happen for kids around the country.
Sean, I would love to hear you jump in too and tell us a little bit about the effects that we're seeing of programs like this.
I was simply going to make sure to add in that former DEA Special Agent Enrique Camarena, for whom Red Ribbon was started, was himself a Marine. And so Colonel Davis, we have that connection and tie together. And there's a long, wonderful tradition and history of DEA and the Marine Corps working closely. Jodie, to your question about the impact of youth programming and youth activity and youth leadership and peer-to-peer messaging, it is absolutely making a difference. Just when we look at the number of Americans we are losing to a drug overdose or a drug poisoning, the numbers are going down, which is phenomenal. Just in the last year, 25% drop. What I don't want people to think is that we've turned the corner, the problem is solved, and we can move on to another issue. We absolutely can't take our foot off the gas. We have to have more young people. If you're a parent or caregiver that has a child in your home, or you're a grandparent who has a grandkid, get them involved in helping to spread the word, because we have to keep driving those numbers down. We're still losing far too many Americans every year to a drug overdose or a drug poisoning. The numbers are going down. They're going in the right direction, but we got to keep going.
I think, it's so wonderful to hear again about all the wonderful and caring adults coming together and working together hand in hand, like all of your organizations on behalf of young people. And it's, even more beautiful to hear about the young people themselves kind of taking the reins and taking control of all of these things. We know that peer influence is one of the biggest predictors of youth behavior. And so knowing that teens are 2 times more likely to use substances if they're young, we know that teens are 2 times more likely to use substances if their close friends and peers are using substances. And what's even more amazing is that we know the opposite is true. So when young people are surrounded by groups of young people who are not using substances and peer mentors who are not using substances, they also are less likely to use substances. And so again, the power of programs like Young Marines and sports and all of the different things we talk about on this podcast, again, it works. It's beneficial and it's necessary.
Welcome back to Awkward Conversations, and welcome to Season 5.
Saving lives means staying informed. Knowing the dangers of using fake prescription pills can help those you care about and keep our community safe. As a parent, educator, neighbor, or friend, we all play a role in building safe and healthy futures for ourselves and our loved ones. Do your part to take the first step today. Visit GetSmartAboutDrugs.com to access education, prevention, and treatment resources. Fake prescription pills laced with fentanyl are deadly. Be their protector. Be informed. Visit GetSmartAboutDrugs.com.
You're listening to Awkward Conversations. Thanks for being here.
Let's talk a little bit, though, to some of the young people we have today about their experiences and the work that they're doing, in their communities.
Ashkaya, Jackson, welcome to the show. We're so happy that you guys are here and really honored that you're going to share with us. How did you get involved in the Young Marines, and what drew you to the program in the first place?
I would say when I first heard about the program, I was at an air show. Little kids walking around in the military uniform. And I was just amazed by their composure, way they spoke to the people that they saw. And I was just like, hey, why didn't I try this out? So, I went up to their booth, got to know more about what they did, the different opportunities, the experiences they got. And I was like, wow, this is just amazing. I want to be like them. So as I, ranked up through the program, went to leadership schools, got all these different experiences, I definitely grew a lot, whether it was leadership, whether it was being more courageous. I mean, overall, like being here today on this podcast, speaking to you all, especially the viewers as well, it's a whole different, sense of confidence and just a whole transformation in character. So it's really just a great program.
Yeah, Jackson, what about you?
Yeah, so I actually joined, I had a lot of family members in the program,
Okay.
my older brother, my older sister, both my parents. Just seeing it from an outside view, I really wanted to get involved. It looked like a lot of fun, but I really didn't join for the leadership point at first. I was a really quiet kid. I was kind of a go with the flow, just kind of, show up where I was asked to do what I needed to. But the program really brought out my leadership traits really well. And when I started to get pushed into more leadership positions, being in charge of people, it really just kind of showed me my potential and the type of person that I had within myself that I never really had the ability to see. So just my years through the program, being able to learn how to lead others, communicate, public speak, learn more about the dangers of drugs, it really made my love for the program blossom and something very different from when I joined the program. So it's something I'm very, very thankful for that I joined because of my family.
Yeah, it sounds like, not only are you learning leadership skills, but you're also learning to find things within yourself that, you didn't even know were there, skills and ways of dealing with the world. So that's really amazing to hear. And you both earned the DEA device for your prevention work. Can you explain what that means and what you had to do to earn it?
Sure. So in the program, the DE device has some requirements to complete before you can earn it. So exactly 4 presentations, which are 20 minutes long. And these presentations can be given to any audience, Usually it's targeted for the youth, obviously. So at high schools, middle schools, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. It's basically to get the outreach of our drug demand reduction program. And overall, once you complete these 20-minute presentations, you can apply for the device, and that's when you can earn it and display it on your rack right here. Yep.
Oh, great.
Yeah, and if I could, really thanks to the DEA for partnering with, allow us to use the DEA Shield. When they say a device, so the young Marines have the opportunity to earn the Drug Demand Reduction Ribbon. It's part of many ribbons you'll see the young Marines wearing that they earn through time that are key to their promotion in the program as well. But it's that extra step above when you go out, not just in our program, talking to all the kids that are already in the program, but going out to people outside of the program, exporting that message. And that's what earned the DEA device. I mean, we do activities. I'll let the young Marines tell you. They're doing activities all throughout their communities, trunk or treat, Red Ribbon Week, booths and promotional materials. We use Elks materials, DEA materials, our own materials that they're using to present to their peers like, here, you need to know more about this.
I don't think it'd be a surprise to any of our viewers that we know that when young people are delivering the message about substances or about just healthy life choices, that other young people listen a little bit better than when people like me or parents or caregivers are giving that same message. There's more credibility, right? It's their peers. But
I'm mom. I know nothing, unfortunately.
You've never lived a day in your life.
15 and 17-year-olds, and I know nothing. I didn't know I got so stupid as I aged.
But it's such a good opportunity
Right.
for, because we know that it's more of a captive audience to hear your peers, and especially, sometimes a little bit older kind of peers. Jackson and Akshaya, can you tell us a little bit about what you think peers are connecting the most with when you go out to do these kind of peer-led activities and lectures, so to speak?
Absolutely. So for my unit, we utilize Red Ribbon Week really heavily to go out into middle schools primarily. So we really target 5th, 6th, 7th grade, try to get that age where they're old enough to understand the dangers of drugs, but not so old that they're kind of really experiencing it yet. And for me, I actually but I had a class that I gave last October for Red Ribbon Week to an entire 6th grade. And just hearing from someone a little older than them, but not an adult, I think they paid a lot more attention. And afterwards, they all came up to me. There was at least a dozen kids just saying how glad they were that I was there. They didn't know, there was so many dangers to marijuana, vaping, all these things that they didn't really know too much about, and their parents just kind of said, stick away from. And now they're learning the actual dangers that is with those things. So really coming from a someone close to them, it's just more believable almost. I know, especially with teenagers, if you hear something from your parents, you don't want to believe it, you think you know better. So a lot of times hearing it from someone closer to you, you're more likely to want to believe them and go with that.
Absolutely.
And I think you also you're just being, raised in a similar time period. So there's more relevant kind of things that you watch on TV or movies, or the language you use, all of those things are just more connectedness.
As young as I think I am, I learned very quickly that my kids think I'm old. And and you know what, I actually love when they get a little bit older and you do kind of get to step back and let those positive peer influences take shape and watch them find their tribe and watch them find what they're passionate about and really learn, like we were talking about, KNOW, instead of just say no, but really know and understand what is out there and be talking to other young people about it, because they just resonates really, really differently. And how do you personally stay motivated to make healthy choices? Do you guys have one tip, if you could share it with parents or kids listening? What's the one thing that really makes a difference for you in leading a healthy lifestyle?
For me, I would say it's really the stories. After you hear the real impacts of, the abuse of drugs, you kind of you realize, oh, wow, this is what happens if you abuse it. So it's once you hear those stories, it's wow, do I really want to put myself in that position? Do I really want to go down that path? And I always tell myself to think of the goals I have in life, right? I want to graduate high school. I want to go to college. I want to do all these things. After hearing what, using drugs, what they do to you, you're not going to be able to achieve those goals. So that's why I always think of that goal mindset and always thinking forward and having that idea of staying on the right path.
Jackson, what about you?
Yeah, I think it's a really, really great point. For me, I have quite a few family members, unfortunately, who struggled with a lot of different drugs, alcohols, opioids, things like that. So for me, it's been really easy to say no because I've personally seen the impact that drugs can have. And just, the awful route that it can take. And a lot of times it's not the death that is the scariest part, it's the road that leads there. So for me, just kind of telling that story to people really, really helps. And because I know that's what really motivates me, is I see that path and I know I don't want to go anywhere near that path.
That's exactly the hope that that we want young people to have, is to see their future and know that substances don't fit into that in their life, and delay that first use, like we talk about, until, as long as possible, because, mid-20s is kind of when your brain is done being cooked and all of that kind of stuff. But if you can just delay that first use, that first drink, hopefully they don't have to use it at all. But if they do, please delay. But how can parents best support these teen leaders without taking over? I know that's one thing I struggle with as a mom, is being let me help. I mean, let me do it all. So how can we help teens really find their own voice and take this leadership role?
I would offer two thoughts. One, a parent or a caregiver, you absolutely should encourage your loved one, your young one, to speak out, right? It's not enough to just educate, because your voice can save lives. So yes, you should learn about what Jackson and Ashkai are talking about, that here are the facts and the realities of what drugs can do. But then you need to turn around and speak out and talk to your peers, to actually go out and be an ambassador, an agent of change in your community. And a parent can encourage that. Then the second point is that the parent themselves should absolutely make sure they are educated about all these facts and realities that Jackson talked about. DEA has produced a series of 5 tip sheets for how to talk to your kids, from everywhere from preschool, elementary school, middle school, high school, and young adult. And this is meant to help kickstart those conversations, to have those awkward conversations and not take over, just tips to start the conversation and to allow your child, your loved one, to carry that conversation forward and then to spread it to others.
And we will have links to all of that information in the show notes. And make sure you check out GetSmartAboutDrugs.com, as well as Elks Teen Zone and Elks Kid Zone for a lot more resources.
And, I think what you're saying, Sean, which is so important, is that the conversation is about listening as much as is about talking. I think, it's so scary to have some of these conversations and also encourage young people to take the lead on these things. But we know that young people whose parents, don't dominate the conversation or the kind of initiative taking, they're 50% more likely not to use substances. I mean, that's incredible. And so, practicing taking the time, accessing those tip sheets, can be so essential.
And the power of empowerment, by the way, for a parent to know that the vast majority of young people in this country do not use illicit substances. Non-use is the norm. And that's a position of power that a parent and a caregiver should have, to know that, most kids don't, and that it's good to speak out and to talk peer to peer about that.
It's young people who their story and them sharing their choice not to use substances that, makes that real.
Yeah, building on what Sean just said, if both the young Marines just said it. I mean, they came into this program and we built up their self-confidence, their self-esteem, so that when they got to that age where they were exposed, either through personal experience or just the young Marines education, they were prepared to say no from a standpoint of strength and confidence, to be able to talk about that, not only with their peers, but outside their peer groups. And the way our program works, as they said, the idea is the longer you're in the program, the more the adults step back and the more the young people, the young leaders step up and make those presentations and have that engagement. I mean, exactly building on what Sean said.
Just really, really inspiring. Would love to hear just one final thought from everyone before we go to, leave parents, caregivers, and young people with some hope.
Jodie, I'd just like to give a simple message to all the parents out there that prevention works best when it's ongoing and woven into daily life. I know that's a simple message, but it's worked for me as a parent. It works for me as a grandparent. And now I'm proud to say it's going to work for me as a great-grandparent.
Absolutely.
Simple but true.
Right? Well, thank you. The Elks has been such a great partner in this. Sean, any final thoughts from the DEA?
I would simply challenge every viewer, every listener, to have conversations with their young ones, with their kids, with their young adults in their home and in their community that spurs the child to go out and start awkward conversations with their friends in school and on the recess playground. Because when young people talk to young people with peer to peer, there's relatability and trust, there's shared experiences, and they don't feel that sense of being judged or lectured when they hear it from an adult. So, and I look forward to hearing about awkward conversations that are happening between kids, spurred on by their parents.
Absolutely. Colonel Davis, any final thoughts?
You mentioned the word tribe, and that's what I'll go back to is parents, kids, get your youth into an organization. Obviously, I'm biased towards young Marines, but some kind of an organization with positive peer norming, positive messaging, because if they aren't in with a positive group, people will find another group. So your kids, get them in an organization that builds up their self-esteem, builds up their confidence, because that builds up their resistance to these things in life. And that's my biggest takeaway for any parent and any child. Go find a good group of people, hang out with them. You will do great in life.
It's an investment for sure.
Yeah, I remember my mom always saying, you are the people that you surround yourself with. It took a while to learn that one. And of course, we would love to wrap up with our real stars of the conversation. Akshaya and Jackson, can you leave us with one final thought that you have about how to keep young people substance free?
Of course. I would just like to say to all the kids watching, don't let one choice, define the rest of your future. You might have worked up to a lot of things over these years, but just because you want to try something for the first time, you think it looks cool, your friends are doing it, don't let one choice, define that path. Stick to your values, stick to your goals, and trust it will work out in the end.
Great advice.
You.
For me, what I would have to say is a lot of people, they start doing drugs, alcohol to deal with problems that they have in their life, whether that's anxiety, depression, all these negative emotions that they don't know how to deal with. So my biggest advice would be find a way to deal with those negative emotions, or find an outlet that is more healthy, such as physical fitness, running, working out, just hanging out with friends, playing sports. Find a different outlet besides drugs and alcohol to help you deal with those kinds of negative emotions that really everyone struggles with in their lives.
I think we found our two co-hosts for next season.
That's it.
I could talk to you both all day. Yeah. Here.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time and just everything that you've done, Elks, DEA, Young Marines, and incredible young people. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies. Thanks to the whole team. Really appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks again, everyone, for being here.
Thank you, Amy, so much for being an amazing co-host of these awkward conversations. And thank you to our guests and all of our listeners and those of you watching. Make sure you check out the show notes for all of the resources that we've discussed from the Elks, DEA, and more. And yeah, keep those conversations coming. We'll see you next time. That's it for today's episode of Awkward Conversations. I'm Jodie Sweetin. I'll see you next time. So on my way here today, I passed about 5 dispensaries and like a dozen billboards promoting dispensaries and vape products with names like Unicorn Poop and Cotton Candy Clouds, which I've got to say is really weird because I'm not sure what adult is out there thinking, yeah, unicorn poop, that's my flavor. It's almost like they're targeting kids.
There was a study done a few years ago of 15,000 flavors of e-cigarettes. Things like unicorn poop, honey doo-doo, sugar booger. That's attracting kids. That's not attracting my age. So parents need to understand, and youth do too, that they're being marketed to. And that's not by accident. They have the high amount of nicotine, and that allows young people to become addicted and therefore to be customers to the e-cigarette industry.
Adding flavors to vaping makes them even more addictive. So you have a positive feedback between the flavor itself and then the drug itself, and on top of that, this very sleek design that are made to appeal to teenagers.
They look like USBs, they look like highlighters, they look like Happy Meal toys. So it's really hard as a parent to know what these look like and to be aware, and so many young people hide these products.
In addition to nicotine, people can also vape THC, Delta 8, and even opioids. And they can also just vape flavored water. And the thing about that is, even if something is innocuous, just the fact that it's being vaped with a vaping device could cause some toxic chemicals, which are also very harmful.
You know, what comes up again a lot is this is a natural substance. You know, these things are naturally occurring. It's safe for me, especially with deregulation. And I think about, you know, snakes can be poisonous and they're natural. You know, berries can be poisonous and they're natural. But also, like, it doesn't really feel that cotton candy or sugar booger flavored something coming out of a heated implement, it's not nature anyway.
With nicotine, we know for number one, it's a highly addictive substance. And it actually, when you start to take it early on, like in childhood or adolescence, it actually modifies the brain because of its pharmacological characteristics. And one of the things that it seems to be doing is actually priming you for the addictiveness of other substances.
Make sure to check out GetSmartAboutDrugs.com. Parents, caregivers, you can find so many resources of great information there about how to talk to your kids and make these conversations a little less awkward. A huge thank you to the Elks DAP, which is the largest all-volunteer nationwide drug awareness program, and also a huge thanks to the DEA for their outreach program and for making this possible.
The views, information, or opinions expressed during the Awkward Conversation series are solely those of the individuals, speakers, commentators, experts, and/or hosts involved, and do not necessarily reflect nor represent those of the production, associates, or broadcaster, or any of its employees. Production is not responsible and does not verify for accuracy any of the information contained in the series available for viewing. The primary purpose of this series is to educate and inform. This series does not constitute medical or other professional advice or services. This series is available for private, non-commercial use only. The production, broadcaster, or its channel cannot be held accountable for all or any views expressed during this program.